always been asked the same questions. Okay, what do you do differently and why your results are better, despite the fact that the majority of your patients are those who are supposed to be difficult cases who failed repeatedly elsewhere. Starting with the consultation, I think we always recommend and ask and insist that the patients actually bring with them or send to us before the consultation a summary of all the treatment that they had before, any tests that they might have done. We have solutions to a long list of things, provided that we know exactly what happened before and how to improve on it and how to change it. So that's the starting point. During the treatment, and I know being described by my patients and maybe other people as boot camp, it's very intense. It's not uncommon for people to actually have blood tests almost every day. We strongly believe that this is the best way to try and maximize the chances of success by staying on top of things. Egg collection, we don't really pay too much attention to the number of eggs. There's a good percentage of our patients, they're not very high responders, so they don't produce a lot of eggs. I'd rather have maybe a smaller number of good eggs rather than a very big number of eggs and obviously embryos that are not going to give the patient the best chance of success. The other thing that we also do differently from most places is we actually keep an eye on the medication throughout most of the pregnancy, which is again unusual, because I think in most places, once you get to 6 weeks and you had a scan and so on, I think most clinics would probably not follow up the pregnancy beyond maybe 6 or 9 weeks or something like that. But we tend to follow patients throughout at least 20 weeks and beyond, just to maximize the chances of the pregnancy going as long as possible and hopefully having a baby at home. All of these things are probably additional things, but we believe that because of the type of patients that we get, all of these things help us maybe achieve things that probably would have not been possible without this kind of approach. Preparation for the treatment till you get to the egg collection is the time of the treatment when you really can have individualization of the treatment. Once the patient get into the lab, they all go into the same incubators under the same environment and so on. So there isn't really much of individualization once you get into the lab, which is against the concept of most people thinking that, okay, the most important part is what happens in the lab. Yes, it is very important. But I think if we don't prepare the patient in the right way and don't get the patient into the lab at the right stage of her ovarian stimulation, the quality of the eggs are the best and all the rest of it, there's very little you can do in any lab. So to me, the preparation building up to the day of the egg collection is where maybe 70% or 75% of the success rate lies. One of the things that we find, and it's different here from most other places, is actually paying maybe a lot of attention to the implantation potential, because to me this is an area that is under-researched and it's not really something that is looked at very seriously in most places. And I think the emphasis is always on the embryo quality and the number of embryos and all the rest of it, which is fine for maybe a reasonable percentage of patients, but those who have failed repeatedly before, those who actually come with the diagnosis of unexplained infertility, there is very, very high chance that the problem is not in the embryos. It's actually in what happens next when the embryo go back. And sometimes people, if they've never been explained this kind of concept and this kind of approach, it's something that is like new to them and it can surprise them. But sometimes this is where the success of failure depends on. We've been looking into this since 2002, so we always felt that there was a missing link in at least a third of the patients that seek help in various IVF clinics. And the results actually speak for themselves, because that's something that we have offered since 2002. We've been able, by approaching this problem in that way, to help a lot of people where everything else has failed. We've got the evidence, at least from our own experience, to show that it does make a difference. We've always been open about it, we've published about it and all the rest of it, but I know it's a very gray area in medicine, it's very controversial, and there are people who still debate it and so on, but there's no doubt in my mind that this is very helpful to a lot of patients who have struggled and failed repeatedly.